Okay, how's it going, everybody? Sorry about the little snafu with the homework. I think I have it figured out. I've been able to find most of the assignments and work that I've been doing, but it's still not quite awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on and do my video, and then hopefully I can figure out the homework later. Okay, so I think today we will be able to finish all of the decimals. And you might be thinking, what the heck? How could that possibly be when we've only done showing adding decimals? And we would have to learn showing subtracting decimals, showing multiplying decimals, and then all the algorithms. But I think you're going to see that because of the work that we've already done with showing fractions and adding, subtracting, and multiplying fractions, and then showing, adding decimals, that the showing part of this is not that difficult. We're going to be able to show these quite quickly and simply. And then when we go to the algorithms, I teach all three algorithms, add, subtract, multiply, all at the same time. We'll talk about division another time, but add, subtract, and multiply, we do those algorithms all at the same time. So I do think we'll get through it, and I'll try not to, again, go too long, but I think we'll go through these. Okay, so subtracting decimals, and we want to show. So if we look at this problem here, right, we might already have an idea. Oh, check this out. I got a cool little pointer. We might have an idea of how we might be able to show this. And if we think back to fractions, that the showing of adding fractions was pretty similar to the showing of subtracting fractions. And then the showing of adding decimals was pretty similar to the showing of adding fractions. So it would make sense that this showing of adding decimals probably is going to be pretty similar. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with what I have here. So what this says is I have 0.5, so 0 whole numbers, and then 0.5 tenths. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this would be my 1. If I had one complete 1.0, I'll shade that whole thing, and that's what that represents. But I don't have 1, so that means I need to cut it up into tenths. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there are my tenths. And then this says that I have 0.5 of those. So I'm going to go ahead and draw these in, color those in. There's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there are my 5 tenths that I have started with. And then it says that I want to, hopefully we know what the best way to say that symbol right there, the best way to say that symbol is not minus or subtract, but take away. And then what I'm taking away is 2 tenths. And so luckily, these are already tenths, so it's pretty easy for me to take away. And we've been taking stuff away for quite a while now. I don't really care if you think back to fractions, how we did it. You can cross them out like this if you want, or you can circle an arrow. Either way is fine. Okay, so there I just crossed those out. So what am I left with? Well, I have 1, 2, 3. So I have no holes, and then I have 3, and these are tenths again. So 0.3 for my final answer. Okay, so again, subtracting decimals is kind of a blend between adding decimals and subtracting fractions. It's very similar. Okay, so now let's take a look at this one. This one's a little bit different. So once again, I see that I have 0 holes. So that means I'm going to go ahead and start with a shape kind of like this. But I'm not shading the whole thing in because I don't have any holes. I have 0 holes, and then I have a fraction of it. So I'm going to go ahead and start dividing this up. And now this one I see is into hundredths, right? So that means I need to have the small boxes. These are my tenths that I'm doing here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all representing tenths. Okay, so all those are tenths. But I don't want tenths because there's my tenths and that's my hundredths. So I need to get hundredths on here, and I do that by going the crossways. You remember? That's how I get those small little rectangle or just squares. There's 1, 2, 3. Should have made my box a little bit bigger. I apologize for that, but I'm sure you get the idea. And then on this side, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with what I have. So I have 6/10 and 7/100. So that means I can shade like this. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there's my 6/10. Now I need 7/100. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right. And then what this tells me to do is to take away 2 100ths. So all of these 6 are staying. The 6/10 are staying. I'm just taking away 2 100ths. So I could say circle those 2 and draw an arrow like that, showing I'm taking away. What I'm left with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I still have 0 whole numbers. I have 6/10 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0.65 for my final answer there. Okay. So again, I said before, you could cross them out like we do in fractions, or if you want, that makes more sense, you can take those away just like that. Okay, now I'm looking at the last one down here. And once again, I'm going to draw what I have, or, what I see there. And I see that I do not have any whole numbers. So I'm going to start with this. And I'm going to start drawing my tenths. Okay. And then once again, what it tells me to do is to start with 4.45. So 4/10 and 5 100ths. Well, the 4/10 are easy for me to do. I can just do it like this. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. But the 5 100ths, I now need to break this up into those smaller pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and do my horizontals. My horizontals are how I made the small ones. 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. And now I can go ahead and color in my 5 100ths. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that. All right. Okay, so now this tells me to, I'm trying to figure out what color would be good. This tells me to take away 0 whole numbers, 2/10, right? So 2/10 and 8 100ths. So here are my 2/10 that I can take away. Okay, so I circled those 1/10, 2/10, took those away. And then this says take away 8 100ths. So here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the problem is that's only 5 and I need to take away 8. So then I can take away 6, 7, and 8. So I can also take away those 3. And so I take away those 5 plus those 3, and that take away is a total of 8. Those are already taken away. So what I'm left with is 1/10 right there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 100ths. So my answer is 0.17 for my final answer. All right. Okay, so those are all like the beginning ones for decimals that we do for showing. And I'm going to show you one more here, and because it might come up and you might be curious how you would show this to students. So I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. What if you had a problem look like this? All right, so now this problem is quite a bit different in that we have 8.43 and 2.58, right? So how in the world do you show that? Well, we want to have talked to our students about what this number means. This number means I have 8 full rectangles, right? So the reason these are not all the way colored in is because I have 0 full rectangles. I have 0 full rectangles. I have 0 full, so all of these 3 that I have over here have some missing shaded parts because I don't have any full ones. So for this problem, I need to start off with 8 full rectangles. So I'm going to do that like this. I'm going to do that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can see why perhaps you don't do a whole lot of these to show, but you should be able to show it. So that shows the 8 full rectangles, okay? So then I need to show that I have a little bit more than just 8 full rectangles. So I'm going to draw one of these, which would be my next one, but I'm going to draw a little bit bigger so that I can break it up. But I need to explain to my students, and maybe the very first time that I do this with students, I actually would draw these quite a bit bigger. I'd make them this size, but I'm not going to do that for you guys because I'm sure you guys can understand that these are actually the exact same thing as this. It's just I had to do it smaller so that I could fit it on my paper. But with your students, you probably would want to make all of these rectangles the exact same size as the one you're going to be dividing up into decimals. So okay, so now I need to shade in what I have. So there's first going to break into my tenths. All right, and let me go ahead and shade what I have here. Well, I see that I have 4 tenths, so there's 1 tenth right there. Here's my 2nd tenth right there. Here's a 3rd tenth right there, and a 4th tenth right there, okay? So now I need to show this 0.2. Well, the 0.2 are the hundredths, and if we recall, we did the hundredths going the opposite direction. That's how I created these smaller squares, which are all 100ths. All right, and then I need to color in 2 more of those. Whoops, being pink. So that is that one there and that one there. All right. And now I can do what the problem says. So the problem says start with 8 and 4, 8.42 or 8.42 is fine. And that's what I have. Here's my 8, and this down here is my 0.42. And then this says to take away 2. So if this says take away 2, that means take away 2 whole ones. So I'm going to take away these 2 right here, just like we've been taking them away for, a couple of weeks now. Took those away. And then it says also take away 5.58. All right. So I'm going to start with, doesn't matter which one I really start with, I guess, but I'm going to start with the 8. So I'm going to take away, there's 2 of them that I'm taking away, but I need to take away 8. Okay, so I've taken away 2. So here's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to take away these 8 as well. All right. Okay, so there we go. And then it says to take away 5 from this. Okay, no big deal. So I've got 1, 2, 3. So I can take away these 3 tenths, right? Take away those 3 tenths. Take away these hundredths. But I've only taken away 3 out of my 5. So then what do I have to do? And I'm sure you're able to figure out that you've got to take away some from one of these. That's exactly right. You need to break one of these whole ones up into tenths. So again, if I was doing the students, I would redraw it, or it would already be big, so I'd show them in there. But for you guys, I'm just going to quickly do this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Right? So there's my 10 tenths in there. And I've taken away 3 tenths. So then I'm going to take away 2 more. So I'll take away those 2 right there. And that would leave me with 8 right here. Okay, so there's 8 tenths there. So now I just need to count up and see what I have. Well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. So I still have 5. And then I have these 8 tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tenths. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 100ths. So my final answer would be 5.84. This is just about as hard a showing problem as you can give, because you had to start with 8, then take away 2, then borrow, and there's a lot of stuff going on here. I don't always get to that with my students when showing. At this point, I might just go straight onto the algorithm. But for you guys, I did want to show it to you, because you can show whole numbers as well. Okay, so that is the subtracting decimals. That's how we show subtracting decimals. So I'm going to go ahead and press pause real quick and then get my next setup. Okay, so the next part is showing multiplication. And showing multiplication is super simple. It's very, 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 very similar to multiplying fractions, all right? So what I want to do first, like I've done in the past, is start with what my whole would look like. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this. Here's a whole. Whoa. Went long down there at the bottom, but that's all right. So I've got okay, and the reason I'm breaking it up into tenths is because that's what I have here, right? I have tenths. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. So I've got tenths here, and I'm gonna go ahead and color in 4 of them. All right, so here's my 4. There's 1. Here's 2. There's 3. And we'll call this one over here the 4th one. All right, so there. So all I did so far is I just said, okay, I've got 4 tenths of this whole. Now, just like in fractions, when you're multiplying fractions, you did one of the lines vertical and the other one's horizontal. Same thing here. You do the vertical lines and then the horizontal lines. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my horizontal lines like this. Should have done this in a different color. Use black. Show up. Okay, there's 1. Okay, so there's my tenths for the second number. And then just like in fractions, where you shaded going the opposite direction, that's what we're going to do. So now I'm going to shade going horizontally, and I have 2 of them. So I'll shade this one in. Okay, right there. And maybe I'll shade this one up here. And again, just like in fractions, the answer is the double shaded region. Okay, so just like when we did with fractions, what I'm looking for are the sections of this whole where I have double shading. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we have to think about what size is this. So these are not tenths because they're the small ones. So that's going to be 0.08 or 8 100ths is the, oops, on the board there, is the answer. So 8 100ths is the answer. Okay, so I just count up the double shaded. That's what I'm doing, just like when fractions. Literally, it's just like fractions. The other two, adding and subtracting, are similar to fractions. These are just like fractions. Okay, let's do another one here. So I'm going to go ahead and set this one up just like I did before. And all right, so there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and shade in what I have. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so there we go. So that's what I'm starting with. I'm starting with 0.6 of a hole, of a square. All right. Now I need to do the other one, and the other one goes cross direction, horizontal. All right, so there you go, just like that. So now I've got my my horizontal ones, and again, I'm going to shade what I have. So I've got 3 of these tenths need to be shaded. So there's one of my tenths right there. We'll make this another one of my tenths. And we'll do that one right there as another one of my tenths. Okay. So once again, just like before, the answer is where I have double shaded regions. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in so you guys can see that a little bit better, and I'm gonna recount it. Okay, so where you go again, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 of those. So 18 hundredths. Well, what we might realize is that I have 0 holes, right? I don't have any holes. So that's 0 point. And if I have 18 100ths, that means I have 1/10 and 8 hundredths. That's 18 100ths right there. And the size of these are the small ones, so those are hundredths, so that's 18 hundredths. Okay? Okay, that's all the showing. Add, subtract, multiply, showing of decimals. That's what I want you guys to be able to do. And always remember showing, we're going to be drawing some sort of box to show the diagram. And notice the numbers are always going to be super small. I'm never going to go do anything more than 1/10 times 1/10, because then these boxes would need to be broken up way, way, way smaller, right? So it's always going to be 1/10 times 1/10 is pretty much what I do for having to show it to me. Okay, so I'm gonna go and stop this video. I'm gonna upload it, and then I'm gonna make a second video for the algorithm part. Okay, talk to you in a minute.